One of the materials I just don't use enough is the stencil material. Hey guys, May Flom here, and I've got a sheet that I've used before. You can see here there's the pattern. It was a very intricate stencil, but that's only a little bit that's been used. Now this has gotten some paint on it and just mucked up from being in the studio, but this is the material that you can purchase. And it is great because it is the stencil material, so it's slightly sticky on the back, but it also has the backing paper. Now when you set it, you'll want to do a test cut with your blade to make sure you don't cut all the way through both layers. If you score it a little bit, it's not a problem. Now what am I going to make? Well, I've got this white candle, and I was thinking, I did a test here, and the acrylic paint dries and sticks to it just fine. Now if I scrub it really hard, a little bit comes off, but basically it works. So I can scrub it off here because this kind of particular candle actually like kind of has a waxy feel to it, but it will stick, especially if I set it maybe with some clear finished like adhesive or some such. Anyhow, my idea is to stencil the outside of this to make it really pretty, and my idea is to use stencils from the ScanNCut. So let's get that out and get started. The great thing about the stencil material is you do not have to remember anything other than to set it much lower than you normally would so that it does not cut all the way through all of the material. You're just going to go in and pick absolutely any pattern that you want. Now I was thinking about doing something more intricate here, but you know, the more intricate you get with a stencil, the easier it is to mess it up, and the easier it is to kind of, I don't know, not be as happy with the results. So what I think would be really nice, I'm just going through all the different patterns here. I'm thinking I could get a really nice result with something like this. I don't want it to be quite so big. So I'm going to set it to right about there and say, okay, and I'm going to cut out 4 of them. I'm going to cut out 4 of them because I want to be able to wrap it. Actually, I think 3 would be okay. So let me delete 1. Okay, I'm going to cut out 3 of them then. I think that if I can have them all go all the way around the candle, then what I will be able to do is paint all around them and use it more as a mask versus a stencil. And these should all cut out as a single piece, and I think that would be good as well for what I'm trying to do. I'm just spacing them out a little bit more, and I'm going to cut. I've got my spatula out. This isn't a requirement, but I gotta tell you, it makes it much easier to get this, not only get it off, but also to help me place it, okay? Because it gives me something to hang on to. I'm just double checking here, see, there we go. Sometimes it gets a little hung up, but it's absolutely perfect. It's so pretty, and that gives me something to hold it on to it other than my finger. Now you can see, hopefully here, that I've got one of them already placed, and what I'm kind of thinking is I may do a couple different layers here, and the spatula also is helping me with placing this, and it just sticks beautifully here. So I'm thinking about, I may need a few more then. I may need to cut out some more. Now this one here on the end, it did partially cut out the material, but it's not a problem because as long as I'm lifting really lightly, it comes right off. And so you can see sometimes you need or want that additional help with the spatula. Sometimes you don't need it as much. I am thinking here that when I put this one down, okay, I'm gonna want 1 more. So my initial idea of 4 was correct, but instead of making more, we don't actually need to make more. What I'm going to do is just lay out a paper towel just so I don't get my surface coated in paint, and then I'm going to pull out some acrylic paint. And what I'm going to do is, I'm being mindful that this area I'm going to put 1 more, so I'm not going to put very much paint around that area. Instead, and I'm using a paint that has a foam top that you don't even have to take it off. So instead of keeping a lot of focus in this area, I'm more going to focus all the way around that area. And I'm going to try to put a bit more paint close to the stencil just to make sure that the stencil design really shows up. And then as I get away from the stencil, I can do less and less. Now, because this is a candle that's LED, so it's battery operated, no flame needed, because of that, guess what? I can paint and use any materials I want because it's not going to get hot and it's not going to be a problem. I just love this. So I'm just going to continue going all the way around. And like I said before, I'm just going to avoid doing anything in this area here. In fact, I'm not even going to worry about that because what I'm going to do is this one here in the center is the one that I'm going to take off. And as soon as I get this covered up, I will show you exactly what I mean. Once you've got it all coated, and it really is easier to see in person, of course, you're going to want to find the edge of that top stencil. And I like to use a little pick or something similar to be able to get under there and just kind of help me start it along. Okay, and as we peel it off, you can see how cute this is going to look. I'm so excited. I think this is so much fun, and I really need to use the stencil material more. And I broke the stencil. You know what? I pulled too hard on the middle and I broke it, and that's totally my fault, but don't worry because it's not going to ruin anything. And I'll show you how I can put it back together despite me pulling it apart. So over here, I'll just tap and set the first part there. And that was my fault. I thought it was at the edge, and so I yanked, and it was not. But guess what? Because of the way this stencil is, and because the material is very, very forgiving, it's not, no one's ever going to know that I broke the stencil. I just won't save that particular stencil for reuse. All of the others though, all of these others I will definitely save. I'm just loving how this looks and how great this is going to be, not just for a fall table, but this is going to be able to, because I've used gold and I've kept it really neutral, I'm going to be able to use this all holiday season long, maybe even into Valentine's Day. I mean, whatever I would like. So I'm just going to finish up with my tapping of just little bits of gold paint here. Here is my candle all finished and dried. And you know what, guys? Nothing is rubbing off. I mean, if I scrape really hard, I can get the paint to come off. But it looks great and I love it. So here's where you get options. I just love how the design looks and how it's just kind of, it's going to be so beautiful at night all lit up. But here's where you get options, okay? Because you could leave it as is, which is kind of the way I'm leaning. But if you wanted to then dress this up, a great option would be get out the hot glue. And I'm just going to trim this a bit because I don't want it to actually overlap. I like lower, slightly lower than center on the candle, but you could take some trim and you could place it. You could also layer up. Here I've always got, guys, when I get a piece of cardstock, I'm always and forever just taking my ScanNCut, chopping up a bunch of basic shapes like flowers. You know I love my flowers. So we could build a little something right here if we wanted to. I like it lower because on the lower part there's a couple areas here, there's two of them actually, where it's kind of open. So I think I'll go ahead and do that just to add a little extra here, just a little bit of hot glue needed, and just be very careful, of course, when working with hot glue, and a few flowers, and I think it's going to look great. I think it's going to look wonderful next to my holiday table, not just Thanksgiving or Christmas, but all around. And if you want to add any final touches, you could add some little buttons and fun. You could take that gold paint that you used and dress up your cardstock. So many options and so much fun I am always and forever having with this ScanNCut of mine. I hope you guys have liked this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them for me on YouTube. I will see you next time.